Okay. So we're going to do character creation now. I think I'm going to man the whiteboard first. I'm not making a character, obviously. So the first thing we have to do is character pitch. So before we actually create the characters and do the questions and everything, everybody's going to pitch a character to the group. And that way we can make sure they all interact properly.
Basically, the idea is a character that really cares about success on the outside and how things look. So my character isn't exactly a family man. He isn't exactly dedicated to his job. It's all about it looking like the perfect life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking a really kind of an author that's kind of pastime calling in life, I guess, but not really very professional at it. And the overall theme is the character has a substance abuse problem. I haven't decided which direction to go, but that's how this character sees vampirism through the lens of having an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how this will translate, but I originally thought of a character who enrolls in AA for the vampirism more than for the drug addiction, because as vampirism takes over in place of the drugs, you still need that same support network.
Isn't that what happens in Dexter? Like he has the urge to kill, so he.
Yeah, I guess it is a lot like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really like that too, because then you have.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a sponsored as much. It's just that the character's worldview is this is a disease. I have to cope with it. Mm-hmm. And using all the traditional methods of coping with drug addiction, and it really, I wanted to really play on the idea of the stereotypical creative author throwing tantrums, disappearing, having really weird behaviors, you know, and being kind of just eccentric, but also really juggling that with this kind of drug problem or addiction to, you know, in this case, speeding.
Yeah.
On top of trying to maintain a really
an aesthetic,
a nice veneer of a quality life. So that's really about one of the questions is who would you never want to disappoint, and this person's group would be like the audience. You never disappoint the audience. So family can know your secrets, friends can know your secrets, but they better not say anything, and you know everything's perfect on the outside.
Yeah,
I like that. I also kind of like I like the idea of juxtaposing something because it's a very modern sensibility in some ways. Like, you know, it's almost sort of 60s, 70s kind of sweaty author type writer.
Yeah.
And also but wanting to like brush off and go out on Sunday and look reasonable. And that conflict is a very modern conflict, and I like it, especially in the presence of a very old-fashioned family, where they don't talk about your problems and just want to talk about what's going on.
And I like this strain we picked because it's really feeding and giving in is really the way you rebound and look normal, and you act normal, you feel normal, and so that's getting back to normal is kind of, you know, the goal. So it's really like, you know, you can go to the book signings, and I don't know if it's that famous, but you know, like go to the galas, go to the groups, you know, meet the influential people, only if you're maintaining this dark underbelly of, you know, feeding. So
which is cool.
Okay.
I like it.
That was a very long introduction, I think.
So Gina, a character pitch.
Okay, I had an idea potentially I really like, again, I'm a nerd, I can't escape it, but I like the idea of someone being on the grounds who is this curator, potentially of the historical documents, and is interested in all of that, and has potentially like the curious hobby or curious occupation sort of traits, where they're very dedicated to a few particular things, but and maybe I haven't decided if I want them to have a family or not yet. They might be reaching out to like develop a family life. She's probably, I'm thinking like recent graduate from some kind of historical program and really dedicated to this historical work, and is being drawn into this world a little bit more, and is not sure what to make of it yet. Is sort of used to being able to be very academic and not have these kind of visceral emotional experiences. I think if she were to feed, it it would be hard for her to grapple with because it's not how she normally connects to people. I see her being kind of distant and very into her books, into her beekeeping, into whatever she does, but not having a lot of intense emotional connections and having the experience of feeding and also these kinds of dream states and these very emotional realities would be a big change for her and something that would be kind of destabilizing, which would be in turn make her life it would open her up and it would also be very frightening to her.
Yeah.
So this is like a new conversion, like
Yeah, someone younger.
Now, is this someone who's in the family?
I think this is someone who's going to be brought in.
Okay, so non-family initiate.
Yeah, I like the idea of coming into this from a very kind of normal life and entering into it at first very academically and then being brought in and having this whole new emotional reality and like these generations of people who are very close-knit and attempting to negotiate that and find her place in it would be really interesting to play with. And also having moments of repulsion and wanting to distance herself on at least on some level because it's horrifying and it's frightful, but at the same time she's making these really intense connections. I like that tension there and also the potential for the addiction and the high and the conflict that I like.
Okay. Yeah, I like this character, you guys.
no objections here.
All right. Oh, and I wanted to ask this about you too. Your character, he is a family member, yeah?
Yeah, I was originally my original idea was recent conversion, but I'm thinking, looking at it now, maybe, having been a family member for a long while, and maybe kind of used to be literary, faded into obscurity, reasserting himself in the literary world, and kind of embracing the new modern world, and looking for these new methods of coping.
Okay.
So maybe that just kind of, that is a slight tweak to it.
So, sorry.
So we were talking about the childbirth and everything like that, sending people off into their 5 years. But what if we had people at the manor too that were designated vessels? I think I was thinking about being someone that was at the house that mothers children that are born in the family from the family.
Okay.
People who stay on the grounds, so she'd have high empathic connections too. To be required of a mother, I suppose.
Okay, so she's a woman who's been staying there. She's been having children with other members of the family?
I would assume so, to keep it in the blood.
Okay.
And it would be true blood cancer.
So is she especially, I don't want to use the word viable, but if they do have a problem reproducing, we didn't really talk about that, how successful that is.
Exactly. There would be several of these people too, there'd be myself and then maybe a couple of other people that have children at the manor.
Okay. I like this, and maybe I'm thinking, because we've got somebody who's been in the family a while, maybe still on the younger side, but you're an established vampire. We've got somebody who's just an initiate. What if you've got this 5-year period, maybe you're later into that, and that would give us the whole spectrum?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that if you meet sort of in that middle ground where you aren't, you could maybe go into the sun still, but it hurts.
Yeah.
And you have these young children who are being brought into this new life and these strong empathic connections to the other people in the family.
Yeah.
And also connections to the people who just live on the grounds and some of the people your children have to interact with. I like that, how connected that character is.
And I want to know, because just as an outsider thinking of, there's this person who isn't related to this family, and why do they want to be here doing this? Why do they want to add to this family? Why do they want to be kind of their link to the future? What is that character's motivation? It's really interesting.
Probably just a strong dedication to the family,
Or a primary relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Just such a strong bond.
Is that person still around in the family, or is that person gone and that...
And it can be either way. You could be a member of the family who is just like coming up at the end of the 5 years, or you could be somebody who was brought in. But
I would think that a member of the family would seem more appropriate.
Would this be then? This sounds like maybe a more conservative, because these two are more periphery. He's in it, but he's kind of pulling in a different direction, and she's brand new. You're sound more
very
connected to the family.
Okay.
Okay.
Someone who's very dedicated and grounded.
Yes.
I like that, and I like that angle.
I like the contrast a lot. It's good to have a character like that. Because it always raises, that's one of the old, masquerade problems. If you're playing Vampire the Masquerade, it's at a certain point, the players all realize, hey, you know what, we're all black sheep who don't care about this system, so why don't we leave?
So fuck it.
Yeah.
I also got permission from Rachel to pitch her character idea, though she couldn't be here tonight. I don't know if you guys want to hear it, or we can share it later. So I think it works really well into our dilemma, totally like unintentionally. But she wanted to play like a lawyer who had, you know, really career focused, worked his way up, and finally got to the point where he can like represent the kind of cases he want, do the kind of compassionate like human rights work is what she's thinking about. So, you know, more like internationally focused, you know, human rights, but kind of a track record of doing a lot of, you know, the kind of jobs lawyers have to do to get ahead that they don't want to do.
Right.
And so, you know, if that's a person that comes into contact with the family and they need, maybe that could be the final role of somebody who isn't a convert. How do we convince them? How do we bring them into the fold?
That would be
Someone that we need to yet recruit.
And her words were ebony god, I believe, to describe this character also. So, yeah. She wanted a very, I think, like, kind of, like, rigid, moral, you know, legalistic kind of person who would, I think, have a very difficult time being a vampire.
That would be
And
good,
so that would be-
too, with the conflicts of the old world views, too, which my character would have a lot of ties to.
Yeah.
And I like the angle of being like wanting to go into international concerns and then maybe being drawn into this family which has such local concerns,
Yeah.
but are definitely about people and about lives.
And part of the modern values too is she thought she was thinking same-sex partner, and that could be a total sticking point for, you know, all these old fuddy-duddies from hundreds of years ago.
That would be neat.
And also the expectation to reproduce.
To have children.
There you go.
So yeah, I like that pitch. I think it'll need to be customized for the strain because she didn't obviously know about that when she came over
Yeah.
there. But it definitely sounds like it has potential. So I think like provisionally like that concept sounds good as long as it can be shaped into what we've got.
Okay.